Hello, welcome to Officially Christy. We've got a story today and it's called Am I an Alcoholic? If you like the story, please hit the like button. And if you want to share it, please feel free to share it. If you want to listen to more stories and don't want to miss any, hit the subscribe and hit all notifications. I came to AA because I felt I was losing my sanity and had recently come to the conclusion that maybe my drinking had something to do with it. I didn't know if I was an alcoholic or not. What is an alcoholic anyway? Someone who couldn't stop drinking? Well, I'd never really tried that. Someone who had the shakes in the morning and needed a drink to settle down? That hadn't happened to me. Someone who slept in the park, got in trouble with the police, lost jobs, wives, homes, ended up in rehab? None of these things happened to me. So what was I doing in an AA meeting, and why did I feel as though it was the right place for me to be? I struggled with these things for the first 6 months of my sobriety. I was 27 years old, and all of my drinking friends were still out partying and living productive lives, but mine was totally unmanageable. I had my first drink when I was 6 years old, and had sipped alcohol here and there and been drunk half a dozen times until the age of 17, when I started drinking as a weekend binger. I always drank to get drunk, and like a lot of people, alcohol had a euphoric effect on me, which I pursued every weekend. I had grown up in an alcoholic family, so drinking to get drunk seemed perfectly normal to me. I saw nothing wrong or immoral with spending a big chunk of my wages on a Good Friday and Saturday night binge. After all, everyone else was doing it, weren't they? By 19, the fun of drinking was over. The euphoric effect had given way to rapidly growing fears and panic attacks. I'd always been nervous, fearful child, but the fears were getting worse as my drinking progressed. I lied to myself that drinking 4 or 5 beers at home before going to the pub was cheaper than doing all the drinking at the pub. The truth was I was too scared to go anywhere sober. I chased that feeling the first night of drinking, but to no avail. The happiness and confidence that alcohol had once given me was fading away. There must be a way of getting that feeling back. Drinking beer? No. Drinking spirits? No. Drink a few beers and then have spirits? No. Wait. Do that the other way around. I've tried a lot of ways, but the party was over. Lucky for me, some family members had come to AA and were enjoying their sober lives. At this point, I didn't think that I had a drinking problem. I had a fear problem, and alcohol wasn't fixing that fear anymore. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. A few years later, struggling on with life, I had what I believed was a spiritual awakening. I was camping in Victoria and had no booze with me. I was very bored, and all I could think of was if I had a carton of beer in this trip would seem so much more fun. Then the next thought came to me like a truck, was maybe I did have a problem with alcohol. After all, like some of my family members, I decided to go to an AA meeting and have a look. I knew from that first meeting that AA was for me. I felt so anxious and yet part of at the same time. I had to keep looking at the "Easy does it" slogan to remember to take it easy and relax. Over the next year, I went about one meeting every 2 weeks. I remember hearing someone say, "Do 90 meetings in 90 days," and I thought What a joke. I'm not doing that. I was so scared of sharing, and most of the time I was hiding up the back of the room hoping that the chairman wouldn't see me. After that year, I decided to leave AA, knowing full well that I would be back someday. I guess I just had not reached the point of desperation at that point. I was not ready. From there, I made up my mind to leave the big city and go and live with my sister up the coast for a while. That's what I needed, a sea change. That would fix everything. Once there, I tried the self-help books and a good diet and the exercise. But I was still restless, irritable and discontent. There was something missing. Finally, in time, I reached a rock bottom, even though I was not drinking. I had a huge panic attack in a coffee shop and knew that if I didn't get back to AA and do something about whatever the underlying issues were, I would soon be back to drinking, and I didn't want to drink. I went to meetings and I heard a man say that when he first came to a meeting, he got a copy of the big book and learned about the steps. He also spoke about joining a group, getting a sponsor and doing 90 meetings in 90 days. I was not in a position to argue, so I decided to do the same. I made up my mind to go back to Sydney, where there were plenty of meetings, and do one every day. The first time I shared, I was swearing profusely. I was so full of fear, but just had to keep pushing through it, and gradually I settled down. Lots of emotions were coming up for the first few months, and sometimes I would leave the meeting feeling completely exhausted. Step 3 was a problem for me. I had no trust in turning my life over to anything. The idea of having God in my life was confusing. I always thought you went to see God once you were dead. Once again, perseverance. Asking lots of questions and writing things down got me through. Self-pity was also a big problem. I kept thinking of my old drinking buddies who were probably at the pub on a Saturday night enjoying themselves while I was at home reading the big book. I was quite depressed by these thoughts. I kept on going to meetings because I knew that for me, there was no returning to that old life. The new one had to be built. After a few years in AA, my life became more stable. My confidence grew, and I started doing things with my life. I went to college and studied computers and started going out after meetings for coffee with people. Small stuff, but big for me. I found socializing with others very difficult at first. I never seemed to have anything to say, and my concentration was short. I was so used to having alcohol in me to do all the talking, and now I'd forgotten how to do it sober. I heard a great saying somewhere that to be good at a thing, you must do the thing. I always wanted to avoid difficulty and anything uncomfortable kind of feelings, but in AA, I was learning that growth comes from adversity. In time, I enjoyed going out with others, and now I'm not sitting there worrying about what other people think of me. I can be around people and I'm relaxed. Today my life is pretty good, and I have my own unit and go to work like most other people. I set goals and would like to travel, but I don't get too upset with myself if my goals aren't realised in my timetable. I'm living life today that I used to sit up the back of the party by myself and dream of living. I don't have anything spectacular going on, but I'm much more comfortable with who I am, and my mind doesn't race anymore. These things are priceless. I'm making gradual progress with God and gratitude. sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. I've learnt to laugh at myself and continue to learn and to care and have compassion for others. I feel like my life was over when I realised I had to stop drinking and come to AA. But now, at 7 years sober, I see that it was the best thing that happened to me. I will keep coming back because the best is yet to come.